I'm Doug MacKenze.
And I'm John Ward.
And we're the co-hosts of the ABCs of IBC podcast.
Come join us as we share our unique perspective on the infinite banking concept as the creator, Nelson Nash, intended.
Welcome, everybody.
Hi. Hey, Doug.
How you doing, John?
I'm good. How you doing today?
Good. Just came back from coaching my 4-year-old soccer team. So it's not a lot of soccer going on with 4-year-olds when they play, but
yeah. Well, just because, hey, let's lighten this up and have some fun with it. So my now almost 27-year-old son, when he was 4, I was helping out. I didn't know anything about soccer at that point. Really, I was just, helping get the kids in and out and switching kids in. And yeah, of course, I know exactly what you have gone through today.
Herding cats is what my dad calls it.
Like they just chase each other around.
Yeah.
Anyways, my son was on the side, and the guy that was really the coach, he said, hey, time for Sam to go in, and okay, where's Sam? Where, does anybody know? I don't even know where my own kid is, right? I think my wife is at the game, but I don't know what she's doing. But anyways, he's left the sideline, and he's over at the snack shack, and somebody's offered him a huge jelly donut, and I turn, and there he is, and he's got his mouth into that thing. He doesn't care anything about this soccer.
Of course
right?
not. My son would have done the same thing.
Yeah, if there was a snack shack.
Yeah.
And I think 4 years is, hey, we're just trying to get their energy out,
it's
right?
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's just getting their energy out.
It's fun, but yeah, they're shooting on the wrong goal, and half the kids don't want to play, and it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's good to be inside and doing a podcast today.
That's right.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Willie Sutton's Law.
What the heck is that?
Which is notated in Becoming Your Own Banker.
What's that?
Well, in essence, it's wherever wealth is accumulated, somebody will try to steal it. And Willie was a bank robber, so he got really good at it. And I was saying to you earlier that, I refer back to Becoming Your Own Banker and multiple other books, as everybody knows. But when I refer back to Becoming Your Own Banker, I just get such a kick out of Nelson Nash's sense of humor. Because he said that theft was the first labor-saving idea.
Yep. I'll just take what you produced. It's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the reason I want to talk about it, and we can take it wherever it goes, but is, so many people that I talk to, specifically during sort of the educational side, they're educating themselves about infinite banking and asking me questions, and, they're often talking about, well, yeah, can I do this and that, and, can that be a tax deduction, for my business or personally or whatever, right? And, so I do feel like the tax man, wags the dog, right? And so, that's understood, right? The people feel like, yeah, the IRS is always there, and Nelson refers to, that's the biggest thief in the world is, or at least in this country, is the IRS. He says it right in the book, right? Taking from one to actually, give to another, right? But if you are going to focus on it, then you certainly should really be thinking about creating one of these type policies, because you're going to pay.
If you're concerned about taxes.
Yeah, if you're concerned about taxes, your taxes are going to be the dollar amount's going to be much bigger when you go to sell some of these other assets that you have, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever. because you're going to be paying it on this much bigger dollar amount. But if you put it into a policy first, that money comes out and it's never going to be taxed again if used correctly and structured properly, right?
Yeah, and I think they asked him, right, they say this in the book, they asked Willie, why do you keep robbing banks? And he said, because that's where the money is.
That's where all the money is, right? So
Yeah.
wherever it's accumulating, right, they're going to steal it, including some of these qualified plans. We know that, they can change the rate, but they also could go after other things that are in their jurisdiction, like Roth IRAs. I mean, in 401ks, because that's where the wealth is being accumulated. So let's go steal it. And we know from Nelson, and I agree, that the IRS is one of the major thieves in the world, right? So,
Yeah. Well, there didn't used to be a federal income tax.
right.
And of course, the country's grown. So there's nice things like highways now and other things like that. But the progression has been towards more taxation over the years. And it, sometimes the income tax rates have gone up and down, but they've definitely added far more taxes over the years. And they have changed the rules quite a few times around how retirement plans can be accessed and taxed, when they can be accessed by people, how much can be taken out, what can. The rules just change frequently. And I don't know whether taxes are going to be higher or lower in the future. I can make a guess when they've done polls with people. I forget the percentage, but a very significant amount of people, when polled, think that taxes are going to be higher in the future than they are now. The simple reason that unfunded liabilities in this country are growing very rapidly with no clear plan to pay them down. So the money's got to come from somewhere. But at the end of the day, there's uncertainty. And I don't really like uncertainty. Yeah. I know back when I was contributing to all the standard plans, I'd always max out my Roth IRAs first, just because I liked the idea that I could pay taxes now, I know this rate, and then I could access the money later. However, that does not mean that something could not change with those plans in the future.
Right.
They could change the date at which I can access the money, which, I'm 36. So right now I got to wait 23 and a half years before I can access the money without penalty, unless I do some very specific things with how I withdraw it. That time frame could be lifted. They could decide that potentially, amounts over a certain threshold might be taxed. I mean,
Right.
The thing is, we don't know.
Right.
John and I don't know. I don't think anybody knows, unless you're the people that are maybe making some of those policies or looking at those. But what we can offer through setting up an infinite banking policy is full control.
Yeah.
And the nice thing, and Nelson talks about this, is that these policies don't operate within federal tax code.
Right. Right. They predated, tax, the IRS and everything, right? These policies, these types of policies, whole life have been around, for close couple hundred years.
Yeah.
Right. So, we didn't even, as you said, we didn't even have an income tax until 1913. Mm-hmm. Right. So obviously, if we go back a couple hundred years, it predated
we had carriers that were going back to the.
But I think it's just like, without belaboring it, right, is we're saying it's under the jurisdiction. All these plans are under the jurisdiction. We can't get away from, we're not talking just income taxes. We're taxed all over the place. We're taxed with the inflation of the money supply. That's a hidden, they like to say it's hidden. It's not really too hidden from me. When I go to the grocery store and I barely feel like I got anything and it costs me $100 for, which is insane. Right? To me, anyways, it's insane. And so, we're just saying, hey, if taxes are one of your concerns because, hey, can I do this, that, and the other thing, and deduct it from my, gross income, and I can lower my tax bill, right? Well, then you should be thinking about the big picture and the long view, right? The long term, the long view. And when you put it into these policies, you're avoiding, because you're in contract law, not tax law, you're avoiding them stealing from you in the future at some unknown rate, right? I mean, that's the truth of it. And again, it's just not rates, right? Because now they have brackets, and so they can move the numbers around in the brackets. They can try to make it look like hey, we're keeping rates the same, but we've actually lowered the income amount for a 20%, like whatever, 10, let's just say it's 10% up to your first, or from 5,000 to 10,000. I'm not trying to get the exact numbers here, but then they said, hey, 20% if you go over 10 to 50, go 10 to 50. But what if they said, now from 5 to 10, right? That's 20%. I mean, they can do all that. I mean, so it's not just about what, percentage. It's really like where do you fit in on the scale of income?
Yeah, I mean, and as a citizen of the country, you are, responsible for helping to fund whatever, even though you have a lot of say in what they do with the money. We're all responsible for funding that. And this essentially, any money that goes into these policies, and John and I can, help anybody that's curious to learn how, but basically by the nature in which they're set up, any money that goes in there is exempt from that funding. So, that's just your own money now. It's in a contract, like John said. It's your own bank, and you go another level deeper on this when you start to look at when you want to maybe withdraw the money from the policy later on. You're basically keeping yourself in the lowest possible tax bracket if you assume that that's your only source of income. Now, a lot of people that we work with have other sources of income as well, but the nice thing is that any money that you're withdrawing from the policy is not counting towards income. Yep. So when you're starting to look at paying Social Security tax, which is pretty ridiculous, but for those who don't know, when you pay into Social Security your whole life, and then if you have income above a certain threshold, which is pretty low, you're going to pay tax on that Social Security that comes out. And we have people that we know and that we work with that their primary source of income are these policies. And so they're placed in the lowest possible income bracket. They don't pay any tax on Social Security, so they get that full amount. They don't pay Medicare costs. They can even qualify for food stamps, all while potentially withdrawing 6 figures of income.
Yep.
It's really, it's a really powerful thing because, again, it's not income. You're taking a collateralized loan, an unstructured loan, like we talked about in our previous episode, and it's just not income. It's just the way it's classified.
Yeah. And if I haven't belabored that point earlier in other podcast episodes, I try to define cash flow versus income. Cash flow is not income, doesn't fall into any of these equations, any of these formulas that then they can tax or they can charge you more, right? They can charge you more than the next guy because you make a certain amount of income for your Medicare, right? And that's another one, right? We've been paying into the Medicare system through our paychecks also, right? But they never seem to change that. They never change like, oh, well, if you want this to be free, we take out more, right? Because we need more to invest to then be able to provide it for free or, as part of your retirement. And the fact is that they strip that right out of your Social Security check too. If you're paying for Medicare, they're grabbing it, right? It doesn't even come to you.
You're helping to fund other people's Social Security and Medicare.
Well, like a bank, you don't get to keep the check for 5 to 7 days and say, hey, this check's so big that we've got to hold on to it for, a week.
Yeah.
Like, well, you don't even get to touch the Medicare money because they strip it right out.
Yep.
And then the fact is you've done the other things that were good, which was you tried to save for your future, and now you're penalized for it.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to get you away from the penalties.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
really what this does.
Yeah.
You're not penalized.
No.
You're
not penalized, and you enter the realm of not wondering about uncertainty in the future and of really securing your financial integrity as you move forward.
Yeah.
And it's even and I don't think a lot of people are aware of this. Even I have had people say, well, yeah, I have a lot of money in Roth IRAs, and okay, that's great, and you're not going to pay taxes on that as long as the code isn't changed. But that's going to count towards Social Security and Medicare calculations, and people aren't aware of that. So even though you're not paying taxes, they very much count that as income.
Yeah.
So you're not going to pay, federal income tax on that. But so if you got to the point where you've really just done a great job and you've done a bunch of Roth conversions and you've got, a couple $1 million in your Roth account, and that's great. And you can take out, maybe 6 figures a year, and you're going to be paying a bunch of tax on your Social Security. You're not going to be getting that full amount. You're going to be paying for Medicare.
It's shocking, honestly,
it really
right?
is, yeah.
I mean, because I'm in my early 60s and I have 5 siblings that are all older than me, right? I mean, I was the youngest, and none of them know anything. Well, I think my brother does, but one of my brothers. I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and I can tell you, they don't know anything about this thing called provisional income, which is where you're talking about this formula that then they decide whether they're going to tax over a certain amount of income. They're going to tax anywhere from 50 to 85% of the amount over that threshold of your Social Security, which can be thousands of dollars, which, none of us want to just get rid of thousands of dollars when we're retired. Right?
No, and
we might want to live a little bit. Not a lot, but live.
Absolutely. And, to be honest, as being younger, I am someone that is, when I make my financial plans, when I look at that point in my life, I plan on having no Social Security because I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I want to be independent of that. But I've paid into that my whole life, and I'd like that. I'd like that money.
Yeah.
I deserve that money. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want a massive amount of that taxed away, just on principle.
Right. And, honestly, I have a chance to take it in February, and I'm going to take it. People call it early, but I'm going to take it because there's no guarantees on anything. How long I'm going to live, and whether it's going to be there or not going to be there. I mean, I suspect it will be because, they can diminish the value, even though they're still cutting me a check for a couple $1,000s a month.
I'd like to see the politician under their term that says they're going to get rid of Social Security.
Yeah, exactly.
Would not go very well.
But, Doug and I are from New Hampshire, and nobody ever runs for governor here saying I'm going to, add an income tax to shore up the finances here in the state.
Guaranteed that you won't get elected.
Yeah, you're done. They might not even put you on the ballot.
Live free or die. Yeah, no, I know. But that's, I mean, I think people maybe aren't quite aware of some of the tax benefits of infinite banking and of these policies. John and I would be happy to take a look at any individual situations, but this is really a great place to put your money to where no greedy hands can reach in there and take it. Yep. That's the whole point. That's what he's talking about with Willie Sutton's law.
Absolutely, yeah. And wherever they can grab it, those thieves will grab it. And so, except when you have a contractual whole life policy with your insurance company, they can't change any of the rules on that contract. Could they change things going forward for insurance companies and so forth where they can try to go grab money? Sure.
It could.
And
Anything's
they're
possible.
probably not going to make
But
it.
they haven't done it so far, which I find interesting. There's been no,
Well, they'd kill the industry, right? I mean, they'd really kill.
Yeah, but I mean, there's really been no attempts on that so far at all. I think that there's
Because the government officials own these policies?
well, there was a certain president not long ago that actually did bring that up, and that got squashed very, very, very quickly. Yeah, so and there's a huge banks own hundreds of billions of dollars of this asset. So
it's not going to happen.
it's very unlikely.
I mean, unlikely,
it
I
could,
should
but
say,
like
yeah.
John said, highly unlikely. They wouldn't change any of the existing contracts, and
And they can't change the existing, but
No.
they could try to change things going forward. So, as Doug said, I think in a recent episode,
Now's a
there's
good time.
Yeah, there's no better time than now.
No.
That's another reason why.
yeah. Well, good guys. I think that about covers it.
Okay.
We've beaten the horse.
Yeah, yeah, and please continue to listen and reach out as you have been. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Until next time.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the ABCs of IBC.
If you enjoyed listening, please hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen. It really helps. See you next week.
Bye.